I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here on the show tonight. We've got a great crowd in here. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your comments down below, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all those who are here. And Pat should be back for week 2 of the National Football League season. Looking forward to having Pat back in the chair. Let's go to our main man. Sal Paolantonio from ESPN is set to join us right now on This Week in Pro Football. Sal joins us here. Sal, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Wednesday evening before the NFL kicks off tomorrow?
The eve of the madness and the mayhem in South Philadelphia. Gotta love it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I know everybody I'm talking to going to the game, they're looking forward to it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. And, the Dallas Cowboys haven't visited the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 of the NFL season since 1970, 55 years ago, on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania at Franklin Field. I got all the gray hair. I remember it. I wasn't there, but I do remember that game, Zander. And I'll tell you what, it's really going to be an exciting night. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the changes that the Eagles have put together this training camp. I like the team. I like the energy. I like the confidence. I like what the coaching staff has done, but mostly I just like what I see from Jalen Hurts.
Yep, me too, Sal. A couple questions. We'll get into that Eagles-Cowboys game. We'll kick around some of the week 1 slate. But, Sal, you mentioned you've been around this league for a long time. What themes do you look for in week 1? I think it's gotten more and more sloppy over the years because of how they've handled the preseason football and some of those things. I mean, if you look back to last season, Sal, if you judge the Philadelphia Eagles on the first 4 weeks of the year, you would have been sadly mistaken at what the end result would have been. What kind of themes do you look for in week 1 of the NFL season?
Well, you got to be careful comparing last year's team to this year's team. Vic Fangio had just taken over the defense. Cooper DeJean was injured. He didn't play in the first 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks. So when he came in, he energized the secondary. There's no question about that. And then, the offensive line knocked on Nick Sirianni's door and said, head coach, let's run the football. Let's make Saquon Barkley the focal point of what we do offensively. And that changed everything. That flipped the switch. That turned on the lights for the football team. But, Nick Sirianni is 4-0 in openers in his tenure. And he's gone to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. So I think he was the MVP of last year. I really do. Notwithstanding Saquon and Jalen, but the way he adjusted during the season, the way he had a willingness to listen to his players and listen to his coordinators. He allowed Vic Fangio to take over a large segment of the practice. They tackled more. Practices were a little bit longer on defense. He gave Fangio carte blanche. That was a huge, huge coaching feather in his cap. And I think Sirianni has done a magnificent job. I don't like not being out there for the banner. I think players absorb the inspiration from the crowd all over professional sports, but especially here in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I think the team owes it to the fans to be out there for the raising of the banner. And I think the team will get something from that. I do. You never really can legislate what drives people, what motivates them, what gets their emotional juices flowing.
Right.
I like the team being out there. So I hope they change their mind. It doesn't look like they're going to. I understand why they're doing it, but I think they should share it with the fans of Philadelphia.
I couldn't agree more, Sal. I'd like them to be out there and own that they're the defending Super Bowl champions. I know they don't want to say it, but they are kind of beating around it. Sal, I want to take you back. We had you on after the Super Bowl last year for the final edition of This Week in Pro Football last year. And a name that you said that was a free agent for the Eagles was Josh Sweat. You wanted to see them bring back Josh Sweat. Well, here we stand today. Josh Sweat is a member of the Arizona Cardinals. He had the number 1 defense in football last year that dominated the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't get across midfield for 10 drives, Sal. You lost Darius Slay. You lost Josh Sweat. You lose Milton Williams. You lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You lose some depth pieces in Oren Burks. Is that reloaded or regressed? What do you think of that Super Bowl defense coming into the year?
That's a good question. I think it's reloaded. I don't think it's regressed because they still are dominant from the inside out.
Right.
However, I think I was wrong about Josh Sweat. I'll say that right now, Zander. I think the biggest loss was C.J. Gardner-Johnson, hands down. He was the focal point of that secondary. He was the guy that held things together. He provided the swagger, communication, production, led the team in interceptions. He was in the Super Bowl team when they went and lost to the Chiefs. He leaves. They don't go to the Super Bowl. He comes back. He goes back. They go back to the Super Bowl and they win it. So I think he's the biggest loss. They traded him for a guard that they wound up cutting. I would have held on to him. Find a way. I would have held on to him. And they still really haven't defined what the secondary is looking at. I got my flip card for tomorrow. And I'm looking at the cornerback position to replace Darius Slay. Zander, it's Adoree Jackson or Jacorian Bennett. At safety, it's Sidney Brown or Andrew Makuba, the rookie. You might see Mac Williams a little bit in there. But they haven't clearly defined the replacements for those two guys. Whereas on the defensive front, they have clearly defined it. And, they're smart in terms of having big up front, especially in the middle on both sides.
Sal, I want to take you over to the offensive side of the ball now, but more big picture here. Kevin Patullo, new offensive coordinator, first-year offensive coordinator, kind of inheriting the beast that is the Eagles' offense with Jalen Hurts at the helm. How critical is week one, Sal, for them kind of finding their rhythm, setting the tone for the year? And what do you see with Kevin Patullo overtaking that offense?
Well, he's going up against Matt Eberflus. Eberflus and Nick Sirianni coached together for 3 years in Indianapolis. But no Micah Parsons. You don't have to game plan for number 11. So that was a gift. How about this, Zander? If I would have told you 2 years ago, Zander, that the Giants would give away Saquon and the Cowboys would give away Micah Parsons, you would say, man, oh, man, I want to know what Howie Roseman's eating for breakfast because he is one of the luckiest GMs in the world, right?
That's the NFC East teams giving away their best player. As an Eagles fan, it's a beautiful thing, Sal. I'll take it all day long. Well, life without Micah, Sal, let's just go into that before we get into the whole week one slate. A lot of great games happening across the NFL this year, and it is this week in pro football, so we will hit all of them. But obviously, a big bullseye on this Eagles-Cowboys game. What do you think of that Cowboys team, Sal? When I saw that trade 2 weeks before the start of the season, I'm thinking, boy, Jerry just walked in and waved the white flag on the 2025 year. Now, they got good draft picks in the future, and they got good drafts coming up. Maybe they're in a position to rebuild, but felt to me like Jerry waved the white flag. What did you think of what the Cowboys did there and what their outlook is for this year without Micah Parsons?
The trade was a mistake, 100%. Listen, it wasn't the plan, right? If it was the plan, they would have traded him to Buffalo or Baltimore in March, got the draft picks, and used them in April of 2025. So that wasn't the plan. And then to trade him within the conference to a team that you have to go through, I mean, it's insane. And there's only about 5 or 6 defensive players in the whole league that you must game plan for. And Micah Parsons is one of those guys.
Right.
He just is. So I think Eberflus will have one hand tied behind his back. And if you watch Super Bowl 59, Zander, Jalen Hurts was so smart behind the line of scrimmage. He was so good at figuring out pre-snap what Kansas City was doing. He was so prepared, and he was so smart, getting out of bad plays and getting into good ones. Spagnuolo tried to stack the box and stop Saquon, and he had some success doing that. By doing that, he opened up the field to Jalen and Devontae and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert and Dotson, who had that one big play at the beginning of the game. Right? That was one-on-one. Jalen saw that one-on-one with Dawson. He gives him a little signal.
Right.
And he should have got in the end zone. I thought he might have been in the end zone. They didn't get in. But anyway, that's what Eberflus has to do. He must stop 26. If 26 goes for over 200 yards, it's bad for Dallas. Why? Because they got rid of Micah Parsons under the umbrella of stopping the run. So if they don't stop the run and they don't have Micah, what the heck do they have?
It's not looking good there. I don't think they're prepared to face this Eagles team at all. It should be a great week one matchup, though, in the city of brotherly love with the banner dropping tomorrow. That'll commence in just over 24 hours, everybody. Right around 26 hours from now, the NFL season will be kicked off. Sal, I want to zoom out a little bit, look across the NFL before week one here. AFC teams that you think are kind of emerging and in the room this year. I think you look, the Chiefs, maybe they regress this year. Is this the first year in 9 years they don't win that division? Maybe. Bengals, I think, are maybe a team that could get back to the playoffs after a shoddy defensive performance last year. And the Ravens, I think, are the best team in football this year coming into the season. What do you think of the AFC as a whole as we enter week one here?
Well, here's my rankings. I've got the Bills number one in the AFC.
Okay.
I think on ESPN.com, it will go live, I think, tomorrow. I've got Bills and Eagles in Super Bowl 60.
Right, wow. Super Bowl 60.
Super Bowl 60. I got Eagles and Bills in Super Bowl 60. I have Joe Burrow as the MVP. So I have Bills, Ravens, Bengals, top three, 4 Chiefs, 5 Broncos. So you look at that division in the AFC West, it's gotten so much more competitive.
Yeah.
Chargers are good. Chiefs are good. Broncos are good.
Yeah.
Got a good defense and a young quarterback who can play and a great coach who's won a Super Bowl going to Hall of Fame, Sean Payton. So, Zander, to me, that's the most competitive division without a doubt. And I think the Chiefs will not have home field advantage as a result.
Wow, it's going to be a big switch in the AFC. Speaking of it, and then we'll get into just a couple of the games that are happening this week for week number one of the NFL. But Eagles and who, Sal, in the NFC this year? I like the Rams. I'm not fully sold, Sal, that the Commanders are ready to stay in that room for another year. I like what they've done, but it's a big jump for them to be in that room again. Who do you like in the NFC coming into this year as potential Super Bowl contenders?
Here's my top 5 in the NFC. I like Eagles, Packers. Packers, number 2. Rams, 3, if Stafford's healthy. Big if.
Yep.
Big question mark. Has this back issue, a big mystery. We don't know the extent to it.
Right.
We don't know how he'll move within the pocket and outside the pocket and throw the football. But with Adams and Puka, he's got a 1-2 punch there, and they just paid their running back a lot of money, so he's going to get a lot of carries. Remember, it's a running back renaissance in the National Football League. The 5 teams that had 500 or more rushing attempts last year all made the playoffs. And the 4 teams right below them that had 450 to 500 rushing yards all made the playoffs last year. And the Eagles were number 1 in that category, and they won the Super Bowl. So you have to have a balanced attack in the National Football League right now. And you can see the teams like the Rams, the Bucks,
right,
the Lions, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles. Those are the teams that have balance on offense. And the Lions, though, will take a step back because of losing the 2 coordinators. I think that's an issue. They have the hardest schedule in the league. Look at the Packers' schedule. It's pretty good. They won a lot of games last year while being 1-5 in their division. If they flip the script in their division, Zander, and go over 500, Packers could have 13, 14 wins.
That was a division where 3 teams made the playoffs last year. A tough division. We'll see what it looks like. Great stuff there from Sal Paolantonio. Joining me now, ESPN's national correspondent. Sal, just a couple games I want to get into. That Friday game, what a great game in Sao Paulo this year. Chiefs, Chargers. We just talked a little bit about the Chiefs, and I think the Harbaugh-led Chargers are emerging and are maybe ready to get into the conversation. What do you think of that Friday night game to kick off the season here, Sal?
1 year ago, exactly. We were trying to get on StreamYard.
Yes, we were.
Sao Paulo, Brazil. Finally, I had to do it on my phone on the internet of the NFL hotel. And we were in the penthouse sort of like NFL lounge. And we finally got on to get on This Week in Pro Football, the first ever This Week in Pro Football on JAKIB Media from Brazil.
Yep.
That was
Sal Pal and Sal Palo, we called
1
it.
year ago today, brother. We were negotiating the internet in order to get on live from Brazil. How about that? Is that crazy or what?
It really is, man. A
Life,
year later, here we
time
are.
flies. Here we are. That's a tough game. That's a bad. I hope they change that field because that field stunk.
Me too. That was a sloppy game last year, Sal. There, I remember the Eagles won that game with 3 turnovers on the board. I think it was 34-29. A very sloppy game. We'll see how that.
That was the first time Jalen Hurts won a game when he had turned the ball over 3 times.
Yeah, so that was a very sloppy game last year. Sal, let's keep rolling down the slate. I think one of the best games out there is that 425. You just talked about the Packers being maybe the potential team to beat in the NFC North if they can flip the script in their division. Well, it starts in week 1. They got the Detroit Lions 425 window. What do you see in that game, Sal?
That game's in Lambeau. That's a home game.
Right, it's a home game for the Packers.
Okay, I'm looking at my watch, which I'm not wearing. But if I was wearing one, it's tick-tock. Time is running out for Matt LaFleur, right?
I agree.
They gave him everything they wanted. They draft a wide receiver in the first round. They trade 2 first-rounders for Micah Parsons. I mean, their schedule is easy. Is there been a bigger week 1 must-win game in the history of the NFL? They got to beat the Lions in this game.
It's going to be a good one, too. Sal, moving into that Sunday night game, Bills-Ravens in Buffalo. I think that is going to be maybe the game of the week with that one. You said you got the Bills top of the AFC, and I'm right there with you along with the Ravens. They're going to be 2 tough teams. What do you see in that matchup for week 1 here?
Well, you know how the Ravens lost last year, 3 turnovers for a team that didn't really turn the ball over at all last year. So, but I do like quite a bit. I do like the Bills in that game. I do. I mean, they're going to be more dynamically balanced on offense, and that's good for them. And I think they'll be able to dictate what they want to do offensively.
Yeah, good stuff. Sal, last one here is that Monday night game, Vikings and the Bears, another NFC North matchup. I like the Bears. People keep telling me you don't know, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the Bears might be able to make some hay this year. Maybe not. It's a tough division. But what do you see in that one with J.J. McCarthy leading a team that won 14 football games last year with Sam Darnold, and then the Bears with the addition of Ben Johnson, obviously, as their head coach?
Remember that TV show, Growing Pains? Remember that?
Yeah.
That's what this football game is going to be, growing pains for both quarterbacks.
Right.
That's what this football game is going to be.
Potentially an ugly one on a Monday night.
Buckle your seatbelt. This is growing pains for both of them.
Yeah, good stuff. Sal Paolantonio joining us here on this special edition of This Week in Pro Football. Sal, thanks for joining in tonight, man. We appreciate you as always. One of the best, very best in the business, ESPN's national correspondent. Sal, we thank you for being here, sir. We'll talk to you again next week, all right?
Great job, Zander. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you, Sal. There's Sal Paolantonio joining us right here on JAKIB Sports across This Week in Pro Football. I sit in for the one and only Pat Callahan. There are big shoes to fill, everybody, when you got Pat Callahan as your host. But we do appreciate Sal Paolantonio joining us on a special edition of This Week in Pro Football. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this evening. Always great to talk to Sal Paolantonio. Man, is he an encyclopedia for football knowledge, or is he an encyclopedia for football knowledge? That was tremendous stuff there. And you can say he feels pretty good about the Eagles coming into the year. He says that defense has not regressed. So we'll see if he's right about that. The number 1 defense in football last year dominated their way all the way through the Super Bowl. Not to the Super Bowl, through the Super Bowl, and it ended in the Eagles hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. I did like what Sal said too, guys, about, just own the moment with the banner. I know some people are out there like, hey, this is a great thing. They're trying to, hone in the mindset of the team, but I'm with Sal. There's this old saying out there. It's the only way out is through. And I'm of the impression or the belief that if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you should own who you are, what you accomplished, and what you're trying to do next. I don't think you should tiptoe around it. I don't think you should tell people they can't say the word, the R word, the repeat word. I don't think that makes sense. If I'm the Eagles, if I'm Nick Sirianni, if I'm Jalen Hurts, own it. We're the Super Bowl champs, and we did it in dominant fashion. None of it matters, and we're on a new quest, a new mission, and a new journey this year. That's the way I see it. But obviously, they're going to do what they're going to do, and we can only talk about it. We can't change any of that. So, but that is my perspective on it. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight on a special abbreviated edition of This Week in Pro Football. All right, I'm not going to go the full hour and 15 minutes that Pat Callahan normally does. We hope to have Pat back in the chair next week. Okay. For week number 2 of This Week in Pro Football. We apologize that Pat wasn't here tonight. Again, I can't fill in for the one and only Pat Callahan. I can do my best, but those are big shoes to fill. So, Pat, we love you. We're thinking of you. Sal Paolantonio, thank you, sir, for doing it, for joining in to the youngster. Coming in and joining the youngster from Sal Paolantonio. That's pretty good right there, everybody. That's one of the best interviews maybe I've done. So that's a pretty cool moment for me, just talking to Sal Paolantonio here live on the air. Jerry says, Zander, pray for me. I'll pray for you, Jerry. Sorry to hear, man. My dog passed earlier this year. It's always a sad thing. So it will get easier for you, Jerry. Hang in there, brother. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Hit that like button on the way out. And Pat Callahan should be back 1 week. I'll run a commercial break for the great sponsors here on This Week in Pro Football, and we'll wrap this up. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next time.